Good afternoon, and welcome to the Queens Chamber of Commerce's event. We have special guests today, Commissioner Lorelei Salas of the New York City Department of Consumer and Worker Protection for a discussion on business guidelines and programs after COVID to help us ensure the safety of our employees. We also have a special guest from SBS. We have Strategic Program Manager, we have the Director of Business Outreach for the New York City Department of Small Business Services, Deshaun. My name is Brendan Levy. I'm the Business Development Manager at the Queens Chamber of Commerce. Just a little bit background on the Chamber. Since 1911, we've supported small businesses, advocating for them and helping them through networking, educational opportunities, workshops, much like this one. Last year, we ran over 300 events. Most of those were in person, and of course, post-COVID, we're now all doing events. We've pivoted, that's the word of the year, I think, in 2020, is we've pivoted to Zoom calls and web conferences, but still the mission remains the same, to get good information out to the small business community, to let you know that the Chamber and the city service, the various city departments are here to serve you and help you even through such a tough time. So we're here now more than ever to support the small businesses. Last week, the SBS actually sent the Chambers hundreds of thousands of masks to be distributed. And we were used, I guess you'd say, like a repository to distribute the masks to the bids, to the Merchants Association. So we're here to support you with whatever you might need. You're always welcome to reach out to the Chamber as a small business in Queens, and we're here to serve you. So thanks for being with us. So without further ado, I get the pleasure of introducing the Commissioner, Lorelei Salas. A little background. If I may read, because I don't have it memorized. Lorelei Salas was appointed Commissioner of the New York City Department of Consumer and Worker Protection in 2016. She's an accomplished labor law advocate who has been committed to fighting inequality throughout her entire career. Before DCWP, Salas worked as the Director of Legal Services at Catholic Migration Services, where she's overseen immigration, housing, and the Employment Legal Services Program, and she's held several senior management enforcement positions at the New York State Department of Labor. New York City's Department of Consumer and Worker Protection is the nation's largest municipal consumer protection agency. This is a pretty impressive position. It licenses 80,000 businesses across 55 different industries in the city, and monitoring predatory business practices, redressing consumer grievances, and enforcing various municipal benefits. As New York City has begun its phase 2 of reopening, we must endeavor to keep everyone safe and healthy. We must also continue to act responsibly, wearing masks and other guidance as given. The Commissioner and representatives will go over important guidelines and requirements to put in place by the city that may affect your business and your own self. So get ready, take notes, make sure you glean as much good information as you can to open your business safely and responsibly. So without further ado, thank you for joining us, Commissioner Salas. Welcome to the Queens Chamber's program.
Thank you so much, Brendan and Jackie and Mohammed, for hosting this webinar. It's very, very important work that you're all doing to educate small businesses in Queens and to bring them the tools they need to do their work, their business safely as we continue to reopen. I am a proud Queens resident. I have a lot of love for this borough. And just in the last few days, we've been to Jamaica and to Long Island City today. And when we met with the folks in Jamaica, they were so happy to be working with you guys and getting all of these masks that the businesses are so grateful for. So thank you for the work that you are doing every day. As you described my agency, we have a big mission. We have not only are charged with protecting consumers and workers, but we also serve businesses. We license, as you mentioned, 70,000 businesses across the city. So it is really important for us to make sure that we do a lot of outreach in our communities and that people really feel like they can come to us with questions and concerns. I hope that you see this as an invitation to continue to have this conversation at met Thomas before. We've had, in-person meetings when that was happening. But we welcome the collaboration, and I know that there's going to be even more need to continue to do this work, especially as the weeks go by. We are very proud of the work that we do collaboratively with Small Business Services. Our colleagues and Deshaun, who's here today, will go into more detail about his agency's work. There's just a couple of things about what's been keeping us busy. There are key issues that we've seen since COVID-19 in our communities. As you guys transitioned to doing your work virtually, we also had to do a lot of our work remotely. And so it's been a process of making sure that businesses, consumers, and workers know that they can still reach out to us in various ways, calling 311, visiting our website. And I know that Alberto, my colleague from the office, is here today, and he can probably help me to add on the chat some of the links that are appropriate for the agency in case people need them. But in addition to trying to be accessible virtually, we know that a lot of the small business owners in Queens, and in particular immigrant small business owners, don't often have access to the technology or the time to have to attend these virtual meetings. So since about a week or two ago, we've been in the field working collaboratively with some of the BIDs and other industry associations. Until last week, we had visited close to 400 small businesses in New York City. We're planning to do another 200 or so this week, and really just actually handing the guidelines that SBS developed along with the Department of Health, handing out this guidance in several languages to business owners that are really busy trying to get back to more normalcy in the way they, were operating these days. And, I have seen that there's still, we are not there yet, right? We haven't yet been able to bring back all of the businesses, and it's a process. And I know that there's a lot of sometimes frustration because we're not as ready to begin our phase 3 next week as we hoped for. I know a lot of our restaurants were hoping to be able to do indoor service, and they were already prepared, right? Doing a lot of planning on how they would see diners, but hopefully if we continue to work with each other, we'll make progress enough to be able to move into that phase soon. So I described the business education work that we've been doing. We have a hotline. I know SBS has their own hotline dedicated to businesses, but we also have a hotline for workers who can call in and ask us any questions they have about their employment. And we have developed materials also that are focused on workers, since SBS has taken the lead on the materials for businesses. Most of the laws that apply to workplaces continue to be in effect. So employers, are still required to comply with municipal workplace laws. I want to speak just briefly about one that is a very important benefit for workers, but also today it is really a matter of public health. So it's the requirement to pay paid sick leave to employees. As you probably know, in the city, we've had this law already since 2014, but just recently in March and in April, the state and the federal government acted to also provide emergency paid sick leave benefits to workers. Obviously, this is a very important it serves a public health goal that employers and workers can work together to make sure that those who are sick just go back home, right? And are able to get the benefit they're entitled to. So if people have questions, please call us at 311. We are getting all of those calls. We're getting all the emails. We had hundreds of calls from employers at the very beginning of the pandemic because they wanted to do the right thing. They wanted to know what their obligations were. And we are here for you, and we'll work collaboratively with our sister agencies to make sure that you continue to have access to us as much as possible. So, and then, we do enforce consumer protection laws. We've seen issues with price gouging, and you should know that, we published a rule at the beginning of March, basically making price gouging illegal with respect to certain products that consumers need to, in order to prevent the disease or to take care of themselves at home, like products such as Tylenol and hand sanitizers. We do understand, obviously, and we want businesses to continue to try to secure those products into their stores, right? Because it's important for that to be accessible. And if businesses have documentation that they had to incur in additional costs to bring those products to their businesses, obviously that is an adequate justification for raising the prices, right? It's just in situations in which we were seeing really outrageous increases in prices. And as you know, in Queens, we've been really hard hit. Our communities have gotten sick, have lost their jobs, and it's just a crisis within the crisis. So, but please reach out again if you have questions. We're here. People can ask us questions anonymously if they just don't want to put themselves, make themselves vulnerable. People can ask us questions anonymously. We'll answer every question we get. And I think I'm going to leave it there so we have time for questions. But just a reminder again that we are here. We want to hear from you. If there's anything more that we could be doing to bring more tools to the businesses, let us know. We are always pointing out to the businesses we encounter that a lot of the tools have been developed by either the state or the city Department of Health to make it easier for everyone to just go on a website and print a piece of paper instead of having to recreate items, right? 4 key things that that I know we'll go through during this webinar, but there are 4 important things that people need to know. Social distancing, obviously, super important, right? Wearing the face coverings. It's, again, this is something that we all should be in this together, right? I think the reason why New York City has been so far so successful in really flattening the curve, it's been people have been really good about wearing face coverings, and we certainly don't want to be in a place where we've seen the disputes between businesses and employees who are trying to do the right thing and require customers to wear face coverings and customers who refuse to do so. But in reality, I mean, we all need to be in this together if we want to keep moving forward, right? And then, there are quite a number of requirements, and I recognize that there's just a lot to digest and a lot of information to really follow, like, for businesses to understand all of the things that the guidelines from the state require. So, we are really spending a lot of time just educating businesses. We're not coming out with a punitive, way of like doing things, right? We want people to understand what they need to do because it's for everyone's benefit, but it may change depending on the industry. But in general, just, providing workers with protective equipment, communicating to workers what it is that the employer is doing every day, the business is doing to make sure that they're keeping up with safety and health guidelines. Doing screenings of workers. I think this is one of the pieces that's a little more complicated, I think, because people I wonder, what questions can I ask? What should I ask? But again, there are tools that have been developed that you can just download from the websites. And basically, it's very basic. We don't want people to come to work if they're sick. So you have to have them do a health screening before they come in. And it's like 3 to 4 questions that people need to do. And then cleaning, disinfecting the workplace is very important. Making sure that you keep logs of that, right? So businesses are already doing it. When we're going out to talk to people, they're doing all of these things, but it's a lot of information. And so don't be afraid to keep asking questions. We'll keep answering them. And we are in the same place as as an agency are trying to reopen our offices, right? We're in the same place, juggling all of that, all of those requirements, and trying to make sure we're doing everything we can to protect both customers and employees. So believe me, we're all going through the same process of learning and taking baby steps to really get to a place where everyone feels comfortable. So I'm going to leave it there, and I welcome the conversation and the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. There are some questions on the chat. I can start with the first one. I work at a business that has reopened, but physical distance is not possible at my job. What are my options?
So depending on the type of industry, right, there may be certain specific requirements as to the kind of a capacity that the business is allowed to operate at, right? In some cases, office space, for instance, people have been given the guidance that they should not be operating on more than 50% capacity, right? That is to allow for the social distancing. In general, though, if you cannot keep 6 feet away from someone else, both individuals need to be wearing the face coverings, right? And that's important because there definitely are going to be some jobs that for which you need two people to be in close contact. Excuse me. I'm coughing, but I'm not sick that I know of. So definitely the face coverings are very, very important, and also making sure that the business is one that can reopen during this period of time, right? So I'm not sure what industry that is, but we can definitely check on that. Depending on the industry, they can reopen, and if they can reopen, again, if the job requires close contact between people, then face coverings are mandatory. And in some cases, depending on the work you're doing, you may need additional personal protective equipment.
Thank you. There is another question on the chat. Says, my employer does not clean the bathrooms, break rooms, and other common areas. And the person is worried about getting sick. What they can do, and how often is my employer required to clean common areas?
So the guidelines say that definitely every day and or after every shift, right? So when you have new workers coming, employers are supposed to keep regularly clean the workplace, especially the most commonly used areas, right? So if you're sharing a table or a workspace where different people rotate all the time, that has to be cleaned regularly. You need to be able to offer your employees time to go and clean their hands, wash their hands, or at least have access to hand sanitizer. Very important, and this goes towards reassuring your employees, right? Is the requirement that employers maintain a log of the cleaning that they're doing, right? So that alone will go a long way to making sure that workers know, okay, my employer is cleaning every day at this time and using these kinds of products. And that's really a guideline, a requirement from the state Department of Health. Again, the products that are recommended or employers are being asked to use, all of that is part of the state guidelines, and people can go into the Department of Health and check that out. But it's really important that the business keeps a log and says July 2nd at 9 a.m. These areas were clean with these products. July 3rd at 9 a.m. these areas were clean with these products. And then if any inspector from the state or the city show up, they're going to ask to see that. They're going to say, I want to see the log, right? So workers can use that as a way of like seeing, okay, I can see now that my area is getting cleaned this regularly. They can let us know, again, like, I don't want to call these complaints because in reality, we're all trying to take care of each other here, right? I mean, you can tell your employer or the business, I think that there's some things you're supposed to do. You're supposed to keep track of this, the cleaning, you're supposed to do all of this. And then hopefully employers will then, sometimes in some cases, they just don't have the information. Everyone is so like really desperate to go back to business and start, earning a living. And if they need information, again, that's where we come in, right? Small Business Services or my office or any other city agency, we can come in with information. These are the things you need to do to make sure that everyone feels comfortable back at work.
We have several questions on the chat. Some of them you already responded, you already answered it, but there is one here from Alan. Oh, sorry. I lost it. Just a second. I am a director of sales for 3 hotels in New York City. Ownership furloughed me in late February via text. I haven't heard from them since my signed agreement with them is they will need to give me 3 weeks salary. It is if I was fired or if I were leave. How long legally can a furlough be?
Oh, a furlough. I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand the entire question you were asking, but I'm reading it here too.
Okay.
Ownership followed me a text. I haven't heard from them since my sign agreement. That is 3 weeks out expired. Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question. And to be honest, I don't have a perfect answer. And I would say if they're willing to have us contact them, we can do some work in the office with like one of our attorneys or investigators to just be able to get back to them on that. The one thing that I would say is that in some cases, like employees who are furloughed can also claim unemployment insurance benefits, right? So just want to make sure that the person has been exploring all of their options. If they have an agreement, right? If there was a promise again to pay some kind of severance package, typically that is, it's not in the law, right? That is a private agreement between the business and the employees at that workplace. Those should be enforceable. In many cases, that kind of agreement, it might either be the Department of Labor or even like a private sort of a lawsuit that someone needs to do if the other party refuses to comply with that. But I think in this case, I would, offer that Alberto can take the information or share his information so that the individual can talk to us directly, and we'll look into that.
Thank you.
If Brandon, I don't know if Brandon is trying to say something, but if you are, you're on mute, so we can't hear you.
Muted.
Yeah.
So thank you, Commissioner. So I think it's a good question that we get this all the time. What's the difference between being furloughed and terminated? And, what are your rights? Like just kind of an overview, we're not going to go too deep.
Yeah. I mean, typically what happens when you're furloughed is you're basically taking days off without pay, right? But in many cases, employers do that in order to be able to, you might still be able to have your health insurance, for instance, right? So there are some benefits that may still apply, and at least you're covered by that. I'm not too clear on this. That's why I don't want to go into too much detail, because I do not want to give inaccurate information. I am not clear as to for how long would you have to be furloughed in order to start qualifying for unemployment insurance. But this person has been out of work since February, so that's a lot longer than 3 weeks, right? If you are furloughed, also the idea with that is that at some point employer brings you back, right? And there's no need to go back and rehire, but in this case, it's just gone on much longer. So I think this employee obviously should try to have a discussion with them to understand better where the company's at, and other than just get a text saying, you're furloughed. So it really depends. I mean, I don't know that there's a clear like cut, in this case, you're furloughed. In this case, you're never coming back, right? And so, but I think I would recommend that they talk to us directly, and I'll have one of my staffers really go into more detail.
Excellent.
There is one more question here on the chat. Said, my business has completed the required safety plan for New York City. Does New York City have additional requirements beyond the New York State Safety Plan?
So, and Deshaun maybe can like jump in if he disagrees, but I think our city guidelines are really, we are adopting the state guidelines, right? So whatever the state has said, those are the guidelines. We're not adding additional things there. So there, of course, a reminder again that there are other city rules, regulations that still apply in the business, depending on the industry, but it's not related to the safety and health issues around reopening, right? So it's really, for me, it's just like whatever the state has said, we've come out and what we've done is try to make sure that now we have this information available in different languages and that the tools are easily like searchable, right? Because again, there's a lot of information and it's hard to keep up with all of that. So I don't know, Deshaun, if you have other.
Yeah, Commissioner, you are absolutely right. Everything that we're going to be talking about today, all of the guidelines that you're seeing from the city, that all comes from the state. So the New York State website, if you go to forward.ny.gov, you will see all of the information about the different phases of the reopening. You'll see which businesses and industries are part of the different phases. But just like the commissioner said, we'll interpret that information. We'll make sure it's available on our website. We'll do strategic outreach to make sure that we're getting the word out about these state guidelines. But there's safety you need to follow and what you're getting from the state. The commissioner was also correct in saying that any regulations or rules that were already in place that you need to follow from different city agencies, including Consumer and Worker Protection, Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, Environmental Protection, Sanitation, Department of Transportation, they'll all have their own different rules and regulations that you need to abide by. But in terms of the health regulations and safety guidelines, that comes directly from New York State.
Thank you, Deshaun. And Commissioner, definitely we have more questions, but we can move to the second presentation for Deshaun. Thank you, Commissioner, for your presentation, very informative. And good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jacqueline Donado, Strategic Program Manager of the Queens Chamber of Commerce. And certainly, small businesses are the backbone of New York City. And the Chamber, we are committed to doing all we can to support in this moment. Today, I have the pleasure to introduce Deshaun Mars, Director of Business Outreach at SBS. For the last 3 years, Deshaun Mars has been working very close with the outreach team of the Queens Chamber of Commerce as the Program Manager of the Chamber on the Go program, a very interactive program providing the latest resources and information to the small business needs. Let's welcome Deshaun Mars.
All right, Jacqueline, thank you so much for that introduction. And we were all talking earlier, and I feel like the odd man left out because I'm a Brooklyn guy, but I work with my Queens businesses and the Queens Chamber. So always excited, always happy to support the work that you have going on. Thank you so much for, one, the introduction, but two, most importantly, putting this forum together. I will just stress that there's so much information that's out there about the different guidelines, regulations, what the different phases of the reopening means. So it's all really, really confusing. There's just a lot of different resources that are out there, a lot of sources of information. So thank you, Queens Chamber, for putting this together. And I will just empathize that because there's so much information out there, you do need to be careful about where you're getting your information. So I will stress that make sure you're paying attention to what the Queens Chamber of Commerce is posting. They work very closely with us at the city, so you can trust the information that you're getting from the Queens Chamber. Also, make sure you're paying attention to the press conferences every day that the mayor is doing. That's where you'll get the most up-to-date information. But then you can also go on our city websites. You have DCWP's website. They have up-to-date information. But you can also go on our website. www.nyc.gov/business. So we are posting all of the guidelines. We have really cool guides that you can download for the different industries and businesses that will just give you more information about how you can safely reopen. But go to our website, nyc.gov/business, for anything related to business services and how you can make sure that your business can open up safely. I also mentioned all of our information in terms of safety guidelines are coming from the state. So also go to the state's website. I saw Alberto put that in the chat, but forward.ny.gov. So I'll give you a little bit of context and some background about what we do at SBS. I know that there are a lot of informative questions, and I was really enjoying some of the questions that were coming in before. So I'll keep these remarks really, really short. But the Department of Small Business Services, if you're unfamiliar or unaware of the work that we do, we are the New York City agency that supports entrepreneurs and business owners to start, operate, and grow your business. So if you're an entrepreneur and you have that business idea, but you're not quite sure how to get it off the ground, we have free business courses that you can take, including helping with your business plan. If you're looking for financing, we have a number of different lenders that we work with. We know during the pandemic, the city stood up some financial programs. The federal government also stood up some financial programs. So we're working with the federal government, with our state representatives, to connect people to the financing that you need. It's been a stressful time for businesses. We've been closed for the last couple of months because of the pandemic. So we understand how important it is to have capital and to have money to help you get through this very difficult time. So we have a number of resources to help you connect you to the financing that you need. And if you're looking to hire employees or contract with city government, you can also work with SBS. Now, people may be interested in hearing about the different phases of the reopening. It was just announced that we're entering phase 3 on Monday. Originally, we were going to have indoor dining for our restaurants and personal care. But because of the data that we've been getting from different states around hospitalizations and the COVID rates, unfortunately, we will not be doing indoor dining in phase 3. It will only be for personal care in phase 3. Now, we get a lot of questions about what information are you looking for in terms of determining which businesses are going to be in different phases. How do we determine what timeline is happening in order for different phases to happen? What happens is that we're looking at the information, the governor, the mayor, looking at the data. We're evaluating as we're opening up businesses along those different phases. That's how we'll determine if we're under certain metrics and certain data points. That's how we'll know what the timeline looks like in order to open up for the different phases. So I know for our indoor restaurants, to do indoor dining, I know it's very disappointing on my end that we're not going to have indoor dining. But in phase 2, what happened for restaurants, you were able to take advantage of the Open Restaurants program. And that's from the Department of Transportation. For any restaurants, you can self-certify and apply for a permit in order to do outdoor dining. Now, this is not a perfect solution for every single restaurant and every single business, since we know it's not realistic for every business in New York City to do outdoor dining. But in lieu of us doing indoor dining, that's one way for our restaurant businesses specifically. You can start generating some more revenue outside of the takeout and delivery, which was allowed in some of the earlier phases. But for phase 3, we will not have indoor dining. You can still take advantage of outdoor dining. Now, the commissioner did a great job talking through what some of the different guidelines are for businesses that are opening. Because there are so many different industries and businesses that are opening along different timelines, and there's very different guidance, very different specific guidance for the different businesses. Overall, this is what every single business needs to do. Employers, you need to absolutely be providing PPE for your employees. I'll say that again. Employers need to be providing PPE for your workers and your employees. Now, we've been working very closely with the Queens Chamber, with Consumer and Worker Protection, with our local business improvement districts and other organizations to provide free face coverings for businesses. So again, you can go on our website, nyc.gov/business, and you actually see where you can go get those free face coverings from different organizations throughout the city. But we've also put up a supplier list where if you're looking for face masks, face shields, hand sanitizer, we started putting a list of different businesses and organizations that are providing PPE. So go on our website, nyc.gov/business, and you'll see some more information about who's supplying what types of PPE, how you can get in contact with them, and you can coordinate directly with those different suppliers. If you are feeling sick, you should absolutely not go into the office. Those are also guidelines that are coming from our Department of Health and from the state. As an employer, you do need to be doing screenings of your employees, but the Department of Health's website, they have a very easy to use interactive tool where you can ask people about their symptoms, you can ask them about their temperature. Really, really simple tool. It's not complicated at all, but it's very simply making sure that your workers aren't having any symptoms, they aren't feeling sick, they don't have a fever, and you do need to be stressing that they should not be going into the office if they are sick. Now, the last thing I'll stress, you need to be making sure that you're maintaining a very clean environment. So that's your bathrooms. Those are your shared registers if you're a retail business. If you're construction, you might be using different tools that you're sharing between your workers. You need to make sure that you have protocol in place to make sure your environment is clean and hygienic. Very, very important. This is a pandemic that we've never seen before at this scale in our lifetimes. So it's very, very important that we get this right now. And part of the work that our employers are doing to make sure that you're keeping your environments clean, safe, and healthy will go a long way in making sure that we're shutting down this spread. Last thing, we are hosting a number of different events to get the word out about the different guidelines and regulations. So next Friday, I'll make sure I put the information in the chat, but next Friday, we are hosting a special discussion with our different regulatory agencies, and we're also having one of the cosmetology and beauty chambers of commerce on board, and we're going to have a discussion about best practices and guidelines for our personal care businesses that are going to be coming online on Monday for phase 3. So we're hosting a virtual discussion next Friday, July 10th at 11 a.m. And then if you also go to our Instagram page, we're hosting live one-on-one discussions with business owners that have been going through the reopening process. We're hosting discussions just to talk about, hey, what's your experience preparing for the reopening? So if you go on our Instagram page, we're starting to host these discussions. We're having one next Tuesday at 12 p.m., but I'll make sure that I drop those into the chat box. But go on our website, nyc.gov/business, and you'll get all the information that you need about the reopening and support that you can get from the city. So with that, I will cut my remarks off. So Jacqueline, let me know if there are any questions or if there's anything else that we need to discuss.
Thank you, Deshaun. Yes, there are some questions that we have for you, for SBS, and also for the Commissioner, Salas. I have Leslie Ramos, that is the Executive Director of the 82nd Street Partnership, that is also very close to us. It's in Jackson Heights. And Leslie, welcome. I know that you have some questions about it, the programs.
Yeah, well, mostly as sort of a comment, I want to say thank you, Commissioner Salas and Deshaun Mars, for taking the time to talk to the community. I represent a very small bid, but as part of this pandemic, we have been inundated by Spanish-speaking businesses throughout North Queens. And one of the things, for example, that I'm finding is that translations are being slow to come out. I mean, a perfect example is the open restaurant. It is in place, it is being enforced, yet the translations are not available. And this is something also explained to SBS. We need to do better. My bid, we are trying, but I'm only a very, just me, I'm only the only full-time and I have a part-time person. Just wanted to say, like, Google Translate is not enough. I sometimes don't understand what Google is trying to translate. So that's one challenge. Another thing I think if you guys can help is, you know, not a lot of the small businesses have computers. So we need to do a little bit better with the very high need small businesses that, you know, they need that paper, you know, and the bid we have offer, we can scan, send, we can drop off. But we need to be, I think, conscious citywide how we are inclusive to all the businesses regardless of language and computer skills. So those are what a couple areas that I see that small businesses or the Spanish speaking community is being left out. So one of the suggestions I actually have for SBS is, like, I would like to see the city be a little bit more in the Spanish speaking media. I think when there's seminars, like for example, right now, this is being held in Zoom. I am streaming to Instagram and Facebook because that's where the bulk of our population is. So this is something I've been saying for a while, but I wanted to sort of bring it up again because I'm talking to businesses. We are one of the centers that is distributing masks, and it's amazing to me how many people still is not aware of the services that are there for them. Today, actually, I was talking to a reporter who told me that a lot of the businesses were telling her that they are confused about the rules and regulations because they're coming down really fast. And if they're not available in the language, it's hard for them to sort of commit. So, but having said that, I just wanted to also bring up another issue that might be unique to our community or the community that I serve. But we have a lot of tiny businesses that are co-sharing spaces. And so there's really no space for social distance because sometimes the space itself might not be 6 feet for the person. How, like, what advice do you have? How can we help those businesses that they're like micro businesses in co-share space? And I'm specifically talking about retailers, and we have a lot of those on Roosevelt Avenue. So what can they do? Because if you have 3 people and only 1 customer can fit to creep the 6 feet, and how can we help them survive?
Yeah, so thank you for those suggestions, and thank you for the questions, Leslie. So what I'll say really quickly about the translations. So absolutely, we want to get these out as quickly as possible, but you are absolutely right that information is coming down so quickly and information is changing constantly. So we'll hear one thing, and then as we get some more information and some more data about the guidelines, then things may need to shift a little bit. So trust me when I say that we're working as quickly as possible to get that information translated. But I forgot to mention this earlier. We have a hotline that SBS has for any business owners who have any questions about the reopening and you want to talk directly with our staff members. That number is 888-SBS, the number 4, NYC. Again, 888-SBS, the number 4, NYC. And I bring up that hotline because we have a number of staff members who speak multiple languages on that hotline. Staff members who speak Spanish, Russian, Chinese, Haitian Creole. So the system isn't perfect, but we're trying our best to make sure that we're getting it as accessible as possible. So please know that we're trying and we're doing our best to get the information out. And we wish we can turn it around a lot faster, but there's so many guidelines and so much information, but we're doing our best to get that information out as quickly as possible. And that's why we work with the Queen's Chamber, with your bid. We really want you to help us get that information out. So if there are things that we need to be doing, you let us know, and we'll definitely make sure that we try to change our operations to get the information out faster. So I really, really appreciate those suggestions, and really looking forward to us working together to make sure we can get that information out. And the commissioner before me also just mentioned that for any businesses where your workers have to come into contact less than 6 feet from each other, they need to be making sure that they are wearing a mask. We know that some businesses you can't socially distance, but we need to make sure that you, if you do need to be interacting closely, that you do need to have your face mask on.
I'd like to give some credit to SBS, if I may. When we were distributing the masks, this is, we were physically giving boxes of thousands of masks to various associations. So Korean American Grocers Association, the president came, and we had literature and fairness in Korean. Thank you. And I said, let me give you a box of this. Can you give this to your 1,000 members? Because who better to give that to, right? No, so thank you for giving us materials in multiple languages. So it does exist. And as the guidance is updated, obviously, as long as the folks in whatever language have access to the proper website, they can click on the proper link to their native language. So we're trying. I have to give you credit for that. We do have materials in Spanish, in Mandarin, Korean, and other languages, Haitian Creole, as you say, and more. I can't remember them all because this is Queens.
I would just offer, Leslie, if we're happy to come out. If you want to tell us where to go, we can go door to door, and we'll bring people who speak Spanish, even if we don't have the materials yet, which is a challenge. We're all desperately believing this. The first thing we're looking for is like translations, send them out. But then it's like, oh, wait, the language has changed. And it is being really difficult to navigate all of that. But in the meantime, if you have specific corridors you want us to go to, I'm happy to come out myself and talk to people in Spanish and tell them, we have this information. It's currently in English. It's coming in Spanish later. But for now, what can we tell you? How can we help you?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think pretty much I've seen it across the board, but I think Roosevelt Avenue will be an area that will be quite helpful. On 82nd Street, when information changes or comes down, we call the businesses on 82nd Street, and we have connection to a lot of businesses on Roosevelt on 37th, and they connect it to social media. But I don't have the resource to start calling them each one. And what we have found is that we started the buddy system, tell people to tell your neighbor in order to get information out. I completely understand that information is changing very quickly. So I think for me is, I have a issue when rules are being enforced when they're not available in the language. That is, I guess, the key part that needs to be put in place by the city. Take whatever time you want to, but make sure that no enforcement into is available for all, and just increase a little bit of the presence in Spanish media, social media, newspapers, because a lot of people are confused and the information is not getting to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. And definitely, we can organize a business walk with the Commissioner Salas and Deshaun Mars and Brendan, and we can bring some of the community organizations that we are working along Roosevelt Avenue and Jackson Heights and even Corona, and we can do something like a curbside mask pickup, and also we can handle information out. We did something similar last Friday at the Woodhaven with Raquel Olivares at the Woodhaven Beat, and there was a very nice response of businesses that stopped by to pick up their materials. Definitely, I think we have work to do.
Yeah, that's very helpful. I mean, we
Great idea.
have distributed probably over 50,000 masks so far. And I think that's what made me aware of a lot of the problem, because we were having businesses come from Astoria all the way to Corona, and we were hearing the same issue over and over. But I think I would love to have everyone come together and, you know, so we can help the business sign them up, connect them to services.
Thank you. There are some questions related to cafes, the permits for the cafes. I lost the question. It's on the website. It's on the chat about this, the permits for the license for the street cafes, sidewalk cafes. Are they going to extend the permits for the sidewalk cafe license based on the indoor diner is not available on the next phase?
Well, so there's two different things, right? The sidewalk cafe license is typically a license that my agency, Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, has been issuing year after year, right? And it's a much longer process to apply for. The street dining, which is the program that is currently in place right now, is the Department of Transportation program that is honestly a very simple process and an application that it's just much more accessible, and it's meant to get businesses up and running quickly. So because of that, right now the sidewalk cafe license process is suspended. We're not issuing any of that, and in fact you can't really, there's no sidewalk cafe license process right now, right? So just let's make that clear. It's only the street dining, and again, that is a very simple process to do. And I believe, and Deshaun can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's at least through Labor Day, if not October, that's when the street dining will be in place until it might get extended to.
I'm not sure exactly when it's going to end, but for the foreseeable future, I mean, thankfully we're in summertime now, so we're able to utilize the outdoor space. But if you can take advantage, go on the Department of Transportation's website. And like the commissioner mentioned, it's a pretty simple process. You can self-certify, meaning you don't need to send in anything to the city and wait for people to approve you. You can self-approve. So you can just Google Open Restaurants Program, Department of Transportation, and pretty easy process. And you can start taking advantage of that outdoor space.
So EN September 8th.
September 8th. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that.
And Alberto has been including in the chat the links to the street dining application process and FAQs for people who have questions about it.
Sorry, do you want me to read a question? We have a question here from Marixa Munoz. It says, I work for a nonprofit organization that will reopen doors next week for assistance. My question, how can I receive a package of information in both English and Spanish to be distributed to our clients and enforce the guidelines and protocols for them to follow, since most of them are seniors and will be very difficult for them to follow protocols? So they basically want information, like materials.
Yeah, so I'll say on our SBS website, again, if you go to nyc.gov/business, there are a number of guides that you can print out directly from our website, going through some of the safety guidelines and safety regulations. So that'll be a good start for you as a nonprofit, as a business, to make sure that you understand all the different safety guidelines. And I can check on our website to make sure they're printable, but you can print out the information and hand it out. They're in multiple languages. So go on our website, nyc.gov/business, and we have a ton of information about safety guidelines in multiple languages. And yeah, and then if you also go on our website, if you're looking for PPE, again, we do have a supplier list on our website. So you can filter by the type of PPE that you're looking for. So if you're looking to provide it for your workers, for the seniors, for anybody who's coming into your space, you can go on our website and we have that supplier list for you to contact businesses that are selling and providing PPE.
And we've been telling businesses when we encounter them and they say sometimes a customer comes by and they don't have a mask or they forgot it. And so we've been saying, like, look, you can ask for more face coverings and provide them for free. Some businesses are selling them to the customers like a 50 cents a piece. That's okay. You can do that. I mean, you can do that if you didn't get them for free, right? But you can do that. You know, obviously do everything you can to protect yourself and your workers and just the public at large. So you can definitely insist that people need to wear it. And by the way, you don't have one, I can either sell you one at very low cost or give you one for free because I got them for free, right?
In the interest of time, we can probably leave the chat box open or the Q&A for a little while longer. But we want to be respectful of everyone's time and thank the Commissioner Salas for joining us, and of course, Deshaun Mars. Great information. Thanks for being available. Thanks for, and Leslie, thanks for those very important questions, because we are the world's borough and we do need to serve the community of small businesses in the, in languages, a wide variety of languages. So thanks for bringing up those salient points. And always, you're welcome to reach out to the Queen's Chamber. Everyone watching, we're here to help you. Our website is queenschamber.org and our number is 718-898-8500. Some of us are working remotely, some of us are in the office, but we're always here to help you. Thanks for being members and thanks for being supporters and thanks for being with us.